Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 64 of This Valorant Life. In this episode, we're going to talk about what it means to reach your ideal rank and what that's like. So, part of that is we all have kind of an ideal rank or a goal rank that we're chasing after. And we want to just explore psychologically what this means for people and what that experience looks like. Adam has tons of experience for himself and the people in his dojo. I have a minimal level of experience because I haven't reached an ideal rank. Adam, when you got rank 1 early days of Valorant, coming over from being a kind of semi Fortnite pro, what was that like for you?
I mean, at that time, like I was kind of like done with competing. I was just playing for fun. So it was like I don't want to say like motivation, but more like proof, like, oh, like, you know, I could still play games at a high level. So that's probably like the biggest one. I wouldn't really say like there was a lot of pressure when I was getting up to that point, but like before it became like a possibility, I didn't really even think about rank. I was kind of just playing. Yeah. And it was like mainly just, you know, for enjoyment. And then like as I was getting closer, I remember like I would only play if I felt good. Like I would like have like some sort of like ranked anxiety with queuing up, but specifically like with performance, I guess. So like if felt like I had an off day because I would do my warm up or whatever, it just like didn't feel super good. Maybe I didn't sleep well. I wouldn't even play. Like I would do my mechanics training and then I would just get off. So that was something that I learned about myself. It was like when like stakes get a little bit higher, I tend to get a bit more cautious with my rank games.
When you got rank 1, did you know you were almost there?
Oh yeah, I mean like because I was playing against like at that time like the skill level was of like most Radiants were fairly similar.
Yeah.
So like when you would match against someone else that was high up on the ladder, you can kind of like and you beat them, like that's like, oh, like I could do it too.
Yeah.
So for me at that time early on in Valorant, it was more so just about getting like a lucky streak kind of, but also like playing with high intensity a lot and, you know, rallying the troops, so to speak, to make sure that they're trying harder than the others.
And how did you feel when you got that rank?
It's been a long time. I guess I would assume I felt good, but like when I'm thinking about it like right now, it probably was more of like a relief thing.
Relief?
Yeah. Because I think like when I got Radiant again last year, when I did the Retire to Radiant, it was mainly like relief because like I guess there's like some sort of expectation, like when you set the goal to get it, like you're gonna have to get it, otherwise it's like a loss, like a failure. So yeah, I would assume it's mostly relief.
Relief because there was like internal pressure or external pressure or both?
Definitely internal. I don't think I was like a big enough creator at the time to have any external pressure. Yeah, I would say like definitely internal, just because, you know, I was like a semi-pro Fortnite player, so like I thought I could be good enough at any game I played, type of thing. Yeah. So like the expectation going into Valorant was like, if I were to try and push for a high rank, like
do you think you could? Do you think that if you tried, you might be able to make Challenger in League?
League of Legends?
It's such a different game. I just think of like Sassy and like
yeah, going back to League was my first competitive game, so like I was like Diamond 1 like when that was a thing. So I mean it might be like completely ignorant for me to say at this point because I know Challenger is like super hard, but I would imagine if I spent like a good amount of time in League, like I could probably get close.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean I played League before, so
yeah. No, I'm just thinking it's so interesting, the contrast, right? Like I feel like for many people, we take Valorant seriously. There's an allure to getting better because getting better will get you to that ideal rank. Because there's this feeling that when you get to that ideal rank, like the heavens will open, your crush, male or female, will fall in love with you because you're so good at this game. Like it feels like, you know, like you will have achieved all of the things you want to achieve in life, right? And that's such a contrast from like the experience you're talking about, which is that, you know, it was just like, oh, I'm just actually relieved that I finally got to where I expected to make it to.
100%. And maybe like part of that was like the approach. Like maybe I wasn't like approaching it in a way that could let me feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's possible to feel some of those things, but I guess like with each act having like a time frame, there also feels like you're running against the clock a little bit too.
Yeah.
So having like relief from that as well is a factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not like like I've reached it, I feel good, everything falls into place. It's like, oh, I reached it, finally. And then also like finally is probably the best word I can, like that now that I've said it, like it really feels true. It's like, finally I can do XYZ. Like I can now try a new role, or I can stop playing this game, or that. I think that's like a very common narrative. It's like I could finally stop playing this game, which is a terrible reason to play in the first place.
Yes. What has been your experience with clients reaching their goals? Like, what is their typical reaction when they get to that rank they've been really grinding for?
That one's definitely person dependent. So maybe I can kind of list out a couple, but like I would say probably a third of my clients that are like very process oriented, they don't even care about the rank. That they just play to get better. And when they get the rank, oh, that's cool. It's like I'm on the right track. What did I do wrong last game? Like there are those type of people, and I really like working with those type of people because like focusing on the goal doesn't really actually help you get to the goal faster. So it's a little bit paradoxical. I would say another third of clients are like, they only care about the rank. Yeah. And they're like, Dopai, like my win rate is on this map isn't working. Like, should I try a new agent? Should I like they're always trying to
fix something. Like, is there like a quick significant change I can make that will make this not a problem anymore?
Right. Like, can I change my sense? Can I change my role? Like this, that, like, because like they think like potentially something is wrong with them, and like if they can, you know, change something, they'll get there. But there's obviously a lot of problems there. So when or if that group of people ever get to their rank, it's they're not even satisfied. They're like, oh, like I'm at this rank, like I still don't feel like I'm good. And they either like try and make a new goal, or maybe if we end up like not coaching for a period of time, they'll come back to me like, Dopai, like I'm not consistent this rank anymore, like what happened? And then they start running into issues of like trying to strive for their peak rank rather than looking at their floor, and there's like a whole host of problems with that. And then I would say another third of the group is like somewhere in the middle. Is like they understand the rank, you know, they're kind of just like ebbing and flowing. They're like focused on the process at times, but then when they get really close to the rank, they start having like performance anxiety. I would say that's probably like where I would fit in. Yeah. And then they get the rank, it feels good. They probably like ease off the pedal a little bit, and it kind of just goes up and down a little bit more naturally. But that's probably more of like a relief as well for that group.
And what's interesting for me is the process-oriented group is one that would achieve the rank, and then it sounds like to me it's kind of like nice to have, and then they just like, okay, let's go next. I still want to get better. What's interesting is that that's both helpful, and there's often like a bit of like a pathological thing to that. You will see this in high achievers in general, which is that they will achieve and then they won't take actually very much time at all to revel in the achievement, even if it was a pretty significant one. And like, as like in my work coaching with people for a living, is that sometimes it is actually really important to stay with something for a little bit instead of just like moving on. You know, like I feel like in that high achiever group, and I wonder if this is true of yours, is that often they will dwell on their mistakes much more than they will dwell and like enjoy their achievements. And that asymmetry is like usually reflective of someone that really needs to and wants to like prove themselves all the time. And so that asymmetry in appreciation versus kind of condemnation of self is like can be pretty damaging over the long run, right? And so like part of it is like shifting it at the edges, which is, you know, when I do achieve something, like spending a little bit of time there and recognizing A or B, you know, that I'm good at this and that I have the effort to be able to make, you know, hard things happen for me, rather than only focusing on like what I did wrong, even though that's a generally helpful thing to do when you're trying to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that behavior. Like, that's 100% true in that high achieving group. But it also makes me think about, like, the inverse. Like, I mean, I guess if we think about, like, if we separate the groups that I just spoke about, like, you have the high achievers, you have, like, the middle ground, and then you have, like, I don't want to say, like, low achievers, but maybe we can term it something. But, like, that bottom group there where they're, like, looking for that quick fix or whatever, they're actually like the opposite of the high achievers in the sense of like
they're like the dopamine achievers, right? Like
exactly,
they want the short-term achievement without any of like, you know, they would like to show muscles, and then even if they're not strong, they're like, I'm good. Like I look
exactly. So like those like group of people like really obsess about their clips. Like they're like constantly talking about like I really don't like to word it this way, but like I feel like they like talk about themselves a lot, or like what is good about them a lot, rather than like the process. Like a lot of times, like with coaching sessions with some of these this group of people or players, like we'll look at the VOD and like I can kind of tell like they're zoned out anytime like I'm critiquing them, or like they do something poorly, but then I'm like, oh, like nice shot, oh that was a good round, and then like suddenly they have like this boost of energy, like oh yeah, that was good, like I want more of that. Which I've had to learn to like try and like, you know, compliment sandwich, like oh, like you did this good, let's try and make that more consistent by doing this, and then like going from there. It's very interesting. Whereas like with the high achieving group, I don't really have to give too much praise. I can kind of just like, I don't want to even say like be blunt, but I can like I guess speak what I'm thinking a bit more freely, because I feel like when I'm in coach mode, I'm a bit more like looking for the issues. So yeah, that's a very interesting dynamic, I guess.
That's something, you know, we talked about this a little while ago, like mental models for life, right? And I think like so many things in life are like on a spectrum. And on the one hand here, like we have a spectrum of people that are pretty hard on themselves and only want to improve and the results are kind of peripheral. And then on the other end of the spectrum are people that like want to improve but don't want to be hard on themselves, and the results are not peripheral, like they're at the top, right? And I think the thing in social media and where we are today in the world is it feels really sexy to have an idea or something say that it's the solution for everyone. And I think it's these spectrums of different people, which really means that there is no one solution for everyone. There's a solution and a way of approaching the people on one end of the group, and there's going to be a solution and a way of approaching people on the other end of the group. And they're understanding that, I think, is like an important part of like growing as a person and understanding the world. One interesting thing that usually the two sides of the spectrum are quite different, right? I would guess, because this is more of like just a human condition thing, that like both sides in some ways are really responding to some level of psychological insecurity, right? Like they're hoping that, you know, getting better at this thing, whether as a core thing or peripheral thing, is going to make them feel more confident in themselves, right? Like that. I think in that group that like cares about like kind of the like at the bottom of not really improving but just getting a better rank, like in the self focus, is that like as much as you were saying that they're very like self focused and like think about themselves a lot, that's usually reflective of someone that is insecure, right? That needs to show that they're important or needs to show that they're good, right? it's interesting, like in conversations with people, the more a person talks about themselves, the more a person kind of gasses themselves up to you, is reflective of someone that is like fundamentally like really uncomfortable or insecure with who they are, right? It's the person who has a deep interest in you, that has lots of curious questions about you, that really reflects a self that is very comfortable, right? That is very like secure in who they are, right? So I just think that that's such an interesting thing here, is like, I think it's an interesting question for everyone listening. Like, are we going after a rank in Valorant to feel better about ourselves existentially in some way? Or is this really like a great hobby and it's like a great achievement to get to our ideal rank, right? And I think those are very different things.
Yeah, it is very different things. I feel like when I hear you speak on that, it just reminds me of like how some of us are like we go through the school system, and like it's like, oh, like you have to get this grade and then you're praised. Like it just makes me reflect on that time period of my life when I was growing up, because I think that's when I really felt like I was results oriented. Was like I have to get an A, or I have to, do whatever. And I do recall that like translating into like my gaming career, like competitively, like I have to be like at the top, otherwise like I feel worthless or whatever. And honestly, I still struggle with some of that now. I guess like my scale is a little bit different, but like potentially like if, because like for me, I think my scale in ranked is like, I don't really even think about rank too much unless like I'm at the very high levels. Like for me, the scale I'm working with, or I used to work with, was like the actual tournaments or competition. But for like most Valorant players, like they don't have access to tournaments, and they're not at like the Radiant level yet, so like their scale is ranked. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like maybe like I'm more alike to that bottom group than I would, I guess, assume after going, like before going to this conversation, just because my scale is a little bit different.
I think it's an important thing for people to like be able to recognize like where they fall on certain aspects of themselves, because it's very easy to self-deceive and hope you're something when you know you're the other. And part of growing up is being able to like manage and handle that. But I think what you were talking about in terms of like achievement is it's really baked in, right? And I think in school, and like, not that this is unimportant, like doing well in school is helpful, it's good, it sets you up for more opportunities in life, and yet it's like not the only thing. There are a lot of people that are book smart but never make anything of themselves or do anything of importance, because it's a very narrow test of intelligence, right? I think of there's this quote, I can't remember the name of the author. I think it was a former US president, but it was, I'm paraphrasing here, but that like intelligence is like a poor marker. Like there's tons of people that are intelligent that never make it. It's really the people that show up and are willing to put themselves out there that actually make a difference in the world for themselves and for the world around them, right? And I think like that idea of like achievement, whether it's in ranked or in school and or in career, like it's very common, I think, for that high achiever group to be like, okay, I'm going to get really good score on my SATs, I'm going to go to good college, then I'll go get an MBA, and then I'm on this like achievement train, and at the end of the train is like good times, right? And like sometimes it is, and sometimes you can do all that and you realize at the end that it's like not really what you wanted for yourself. A part of this, I think, that's really important is knowing when to decide what these achievements mean to you and whether they're important to you, like whether you want them to be important to you, right? Like I think for me, as an example, like it wasn't something I knew coming out of college, but I know now that actually like a big part of like my security or like a big part of things that are important to me that I didn't know would be important to me are like being able to take care of my family. You know, like feeling that like I can do that and like I will like bust my ass to make that happen, right? Like that's something that's really important to me and I'll go after that. And then there are other things that like when I was younger, I'll be like, oh, that'd be cool. And now I'm kind of like, oh, like I think I can live without that. Like, and if like forever, maybe, you know, like it's not that important to me. Like when I remember when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, it'd be cool to have like a Porsche 911, right? Like in standard, because I love driving standard cars. And now it's like, it would be nice and I'd be like happy about it. But I know that like it's not going to make me that much happier. Like it's not that important to me. And so like being able to like recalibrate on these things, I think is like an important part of life. Relating this back to Valorant, I think it's like how important is this to me? Like is it the only thing or is it one of many things, right? And I feel like in a healthy way, it should probably be like one of a few things. I feel like if it's the only thing, then I feel like maybe that's a little too much for it to bear. I mean, I'm just me thinking out loud.
I think that's how it was for me. Like when I gave myself that gap year to like try and make it in Valorant, that was like my whole identity was tied to my results in the game. And I mean, like I didn't make it. So like, yeah. I think maybe there are some people that can with that, maybe with enough time, maybe, but like I definitely like felt that pressure and like my mood would shift entirely based on how that day went. Like if I have like a good set of games, whether it be tournament or ranked, like my mood was good. And then like if it wasn't good, like my mood was terrible. And I didn't like that. But I'm sure there are people out there that have like become super obsessed with Valorant and can make it. But I think for like the average person, it would be really difficult.
It just makes me think of like that. I think we talked about this before, this Roger Federer quote, right? Like he's like, I only won 54% of my points. And that's enough to be like the GOAT. And I think like, and maybe this is not related to just having Valorant as the only goal, but I feel like if you have multiple goals in life, like if during that year, paradoxically or unintuitively, if you had the goal of both doing as best as you can in Valorant and also like managing your personal health in terms of like gym or diet, I think you probably would have done better in game if you had like goals outside of the game. It's like to give it balance, because I feel like, you know, he was saying, Roger Federer, that he only wins 54% of his points, which means like 46% of the time he's like go next, and is just like has this level of balance and equanimity, like peace across different points that he can just take with him, right? And what I hear from you is like that year was a year not of equanimity. It was a year of like ups and downs, which is like very different than the way like, you know, a pro would carry themselves. Like I think like ideally a pro would carry themselves. I don't think actual pros in Valorant actually from this mental perspective are actually that advanced. You know, I think like esports in general are way too online for their own good, right? Like I think that you will hear of numerous professional athletes get paid way more than esports athletes that literally just don't have social media because they know it's not good for them, right? But it's like in esports, it feels like that group of people like can't get out of their own way. Like they couldn't not have social media.
I think like the only like Valorant pros I can think of that are like have that like less up and downs is probably like an Aspas or a Chronicle. Like they feel like more steady. Whereas
and I think it's interesting, they feel more steady, like in terms of just like you look at them, like literally, I mean, look at Aspas, like between rounds, right? But it's reflective of their play too, right? Like AssPass is it's like there was that joke which is like, oh yeah, the same teams are going to Worlds, like G2 Energy and AssPass, like just whatever any team that he's on is going to make it to champs, right? Sorry, champs, not World. But it's reflective in his play too, that he's like historically super consistent, whereas like other like really good players are a bit more up and down, right? Like I think of even Alphayer kind of comes into and out of form, right? And when he's on form, he just wins you games, right? And when he's off form, which is not that common, like he's a little bit of a drag. Whereas like AssPass is like almost always a huge factor.
Right. I guess like one of the takeaways I get from that is like it's possible, like going back to what we were talking about with like my situation, like being obsessed and having Valorant as like the one thing. I assume then it's possible to get like a really high level at Valorant, but like it's probably unsustainable. Like some players that come to mind for this, and I'm just like I don't know these people. Like I would imagine that's like a Demon 1 type of player, like where Valorant was like his forefront and like he was able to make it, and then obviously he fizzled out, whether it was due to him or not. Whereas like AssPass has been able to maintain form. So like I guess that's one like example that comes to mind. I guess the other thing too is like I know we were speaking like before this, but like I wanted to mention like personality types, like MBTIs and stuff. If you guys aren't familiar with it, like the idea was like introduced to me like when I was in school, but like I was recently introduced into it again. But I would be very curious on like if people were to take that test and see, because like I think I see a common thread with the clients I work with or just people I talk to, like certain, how do I explain this? In an MBTI, there's like 4 cognitive functions, and I think there is a thread in those cognitive functions that like kind of show you where you are at with like how you focus your attention on goals and things. So like if you're really externally driven, for example, you might be like looking at that rank a little bit more. But yeah, that's my tangent on that, I guess. Is like I don't want to say like obsessed with it, but I have been using it more as a guideline to kind of understand the people I'm working with. And I think most people don't know enough about themselves, and this could be a step in that direction so that Valorant can be supportive in their life rather than taking away from it.
It's interesting, I've like never been a fan of personality tests. I think that's because I feel like I have a good self-understanding, but I also feel like sometimes people see personality tests as deterministic, as in like that's who you are. And I think like it's interesting as we talk about this, if you don't know much about yourself or you don't feel like you have that level of self-understanding, personality tests are helpful. And there's some paid ones you can do that are actually quite helpful. But like they're not deterministic. Like they're not like who you need to be or are for the rest of your life. Like we will always have like kind of like leans in who we are, or kind of like biases, like things we come back to, right? Like but you can change. Like you can grow as a person. I actually think that that's a super interesting lens to think about like the rank journey, as in like part of your ranked journey is getting better at Valorant. A big part of getting better at Valorant, and kind of an aside part of this rank journey, is actually understanding yourself better so that you can understand how you can motivate yourself to improve. Like I think your comment around that person that really shuts down when you give them feedback, and then you have to do the compliment sandwich, right? If they can't live, like there's this term in coaching, which is like be with. There are things we have trouble being with. Like for me, it's like watching an embarrassing TV show where something like, someone's caught under the bed and then they're just going to get caught eventually. Like I can't be with that. I will literally like turn off the TV. And that's like a funny thing, but like in life, if there are things that like getting feedback, like you cannot sit there and just take it. You have to like dissociate from yourself. if you're like that for Valorant feedback, imagine what you're like when you get feedback at work. Like imagine like that compounded across your life, kind of like it would compound so negatively, right? And so like, you know, part of overcoming that as a person is overcoming that in Valorant, so that you might be able to overcome it at work too, so you can be whoever you need to be and achieve the goals you want to achieve. But like, part of that is using Valorant as a tool for self-improvement, because it's naturally hard, right? Like there's the self-doubt, or there's doing things that are uncomfortable but that you know are correct. I think there's like a lot of avenues here for, and this comes back to like a lot of the initial things we talked about with Valorant, that like ideally it is a really useful and fun self-improvement tool, because it gives you the opportunity to really challenge yourself very consistently. It will always give you teammates and enemies that are around a 50% win rate, which means like you will be doing your utmost to just rank up, like at every level, unless you're smurfing, which we don't condone.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that came to mind when you were speaking. I guess like the first thing was like the ability to like use Valorant as a self-improvement tool. I think is probably one that we need to keep key in our minds. And I think when I've played the game and I've plateaued, it's because I've had a viewpoint of the game that I thought was correct and everything else is incorrect. So when like I'm no longer learning, like I'm no longer curious about the game. And I guess another way to say that is like when you think you have the answer, you've stopped learning, you stop improving. And this reminds me of like a recent interview that Eggster did. I forget if it was after he won Ascension or if it was like a match before or something. But in the interview, he was saying how like even if you think you know what's right, like you have to listen to your teammates and try and see it from their point of view, because even if you think that they're wrong, there's a reason why they're saying what they're saying, and you can try and understand that piece. So at the very least, you gain understanding. And like I know a lot of times in ranks, like I'll look at VODs with clients I work with, and someone will say something to them and be like, that your play is incorrect, or you're doing something wrong, or that was stupid, and like they immediately shut them down. Now, I think like ranked teammates can be, you know, just saying things to say things, but if you're able to kind of read in between the lines and be like, oh, like I wonder why they're saying that, maybe from their point of view, like if you were to watch back the replay and look at their POV in the round, it looks like really bad what we did, but from your point of view, it looks good or whatever. So I think this is just another shout to use the replay system. But yeah, it really makes me think about that idea of like, if Valorant is used as a self-improvement tool, the way I view self-improvement, like ironically, or maybe unironically, is I have to see things from other people's perspectives more. And I feel like that's really not done in Valorant, like at all.
There's a technique in arguments, which is called, instead of straw manning, I think it's called like Iron Manning, which is intended to, rather than like building up a straw man, which is when like you're arguing about something and then you make up like a fake version of the other person's argument that's super weak and then you tear it down. It would be like, oh, so like Adam, you're saying that like you know, if Valorant's such a great self-improvement tool that if you just do it like that you'll achieve all your goals in life, and then you'll get that perfect SAT and get into an Ivy League, right? Like whatever, you know, that'd be straw manning. The other opposite is like this idea of like Iron Manning, which is, I'm using the wrong term, but it's like that I would take any argument you make and try to make it as good as possible. Like, and in doing so, I would actually have a lot of dialogue with you, which would be like, oh, so you're saying this, you mean this, right? Like, and so that would mean this. And so at the end of it, you're like, okay, I've come up with what I think is your strongest argument. And in doing so, I've actually forced myself to understand. And at the end of it, we can either agree or disagree, or I can like rebut. But like the important part of all of this is that like in the middle of that, like I really tried to understand, and you noticed me trying to understand. I think like when Exter's talking about like taking his teammates' point of view, I think it's a little bit different in a team environment, right? But that seems like a really healthy thing where he's like trying to understand where they're coming from. The big part is even if he disagrees at the beginning, if he can show that he's listening, that he can summarize the other person's point of view and give them their own understanding, then when he goes, okay, but I was thinking this, then they're actually more open to receiving that, and you can meet somewhere in the middle, right? Like, it's so common to go into a difficult conversation with the outcome you want in mind, and then you're really arguing for that outcome, right? And that's like a really bad way to approach these things. The better way to approach these things and be like, oh, these are the things that are kind of important to me, and it's also important for me to understand the other side, what's important to them, and then can we figure something out, right? And that's kind of like how that example with Exter, if he's approaching it that way, that's kind of the spirit that he's approaching that conversation. And that's like that's very useful for Valorant, and it'll be really useful for him in improving in the future and doing well in tier 1. But I think that's like a really like useful life skill.
100%. I think out of that team, like it shows he's a Yoru one trick, right? So like
crazy,
he has to be flexible.
Yes.
And I think because he's played that character and he has to be flexible, like I guess it's for him to make it into the pro scene, like it was mandatory. Because I would imagine if he was like very rigid in the way he wants to play his Yoru or play the game, it wouldn't have worked in a team environment. Like if he wanted to play his Yoru how he plays ranked, that it wouldn't work. So I wonder, I guess, if it was like a forced trait onto him or it's one that he always had. But I guess that's like a curiosity question.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite it's a pretty incredible journey, right? Also for like Inspire to make it into tier 1, like in the face of all the tier 1 pros that I think that like are not huge fans of him, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a testament to like his self-belief and ability to grind. And then I think it's such a crazy story. But yeah, he must have. It'd be interesting to see whether he changed or not. Just based from the interviews, I get the feeling that like he was already pretty mature going in.
Yeah. I'm a pretty big fan of Exter just from the snippets I've seen from him. Even though he's like, he's a little troll on the streams, but it's like a good troll, I think. Yeah.
Coming back to this then, after like all this conversation, like where do you think you would land in terms of ranked goals? Like what is a healthy way of approaching this?
I do think having some sort of goal, like ranked wise, can be useful so you kind of know where you're going. But I would say probably the biggest thing is like setting the goal but then not like obsessing over it. Like I would say if you're gonna obsess over anything, try and obsess over what your inputs are. Like, are you VOD reviewing? Are you playing the game? Are you learning? Like and then for those that like hype themselves up when they see the clip, maybe you can kind of tie that together. Like, oh, I learned this thing and I got a clip from it. Isn't that so cool? I can see that improvement.
Yes.
Like, try and lean it that way. I think that's probably going to be the most productive and the most healthy. Whereas like when you see like a random clip and you don't have it tied to like anything that you were working on, it's kind of like not tangible. You can't hold on to it.
I think like what I'm kind of something I think about a lot, and I think we've talked about too, is like this idea that ultimately the only investment you can really make that will always pay off is making an investment in yourself, right? Like I know this sounds super cheesy, but it's like when you read and you learn, when you learn more about yourself because of this rank journey, when you begin to overcome certain things like taking feedback, maybe that's really hard, but if you can get over that discomfort and like take it and reflect on it so you can improve, like you're investing in yourself, like you're growing. Like when you go to the gym and you push through that like really hard rep and you do it again and again and again and you do it week over week, like you are improving yourself, like you're creating a capacity to do more. And if you keep doing that in every aspect of your life, like that's going to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve, whether it's Valorant or non-Valorant related, right? And I think like I know for me, like I left like a pretty good career like 3.5 years ago, and I really struggled for the first year in terms of like getting enough work, and I just kept investing in myself. Like I just kept reading and working and hustling, and by the end of like, 2 years, like I was where I wanted to be. And people would sometimes be like, well, how do you retain like all this stuff? And I think some of that is just like, feel very fortunate that like I am good at retaining information, but it was also because of like putting in the work. Like I was reading and writing notes and like summarizing and then writing about the things I was reading so that I could kind of internalize it for myself. And all of that meant that at the end of it, like I have like all this stuff I've internalized for myself, right? Like I can speak off the cuff about certain things in my field because I've done the work, right? And I feel like that's because I just kept investing in myself. Like I didn't wait for someone else to do it. I didn't wait for someone else to tell me to do it. I just kind of trusted that if I grew as a person, that the payoff ultimately would be worth it. And I think that's true Valorant, anyone's career, whether you're a student or you're working. Like if you keep investing in yourself, like you're gonna pay it off because you get to carry yourself with you.
Yeah, that's the hard thing with Valorant, I guess, is figuring out how to invest in yourself. Because like with career stuff, it feels a bit like that path is like laid out a bit more. Like in your case, like read, take notes. For other people's, like go to college, take notes. Like like there's that. Like what is it? I guess like then the question becomes like, what does it look like to invest in yourself for Valorant? I assume that's
I think it's like building up skill sets that translate, right? So one skill set that translate is like your mindset, right? Like you're gonna have tilted ranked teammates that are gonna tilt you. Like I had the teammate the other day where like I whiffed and didn't trade him, and they hit me with the question mark, right? Like the passive aggressive question mark, and I'm like, dude, I just missed, But like, if that tilts you off the face of the earth, then so will that, coworker that steals your presentation, right? So like that can help you grow as a person, right? Your mindset and your ability to manage yourself. I think hard work. Are you able to show up like you've decided, that you're going to do 10 minutes of aim training a day? Are you going to do that like every day? Are you going to do it even when you don't want to do it, right? If you can do that even when you don't want to do it, if you created this kind of like self-mastery or this like commitment to yourself when you make promises to yourself, then that's going to serve you in other areas too. If you can sit with the feedback, like if you can take it and not take it personally, like if you can get good at focusing on the outcome, on the process, not the outcome, like that's going to serve you too. Like there's so many like little skills in here, because ultimately like the beauty of Valorant compared to like real life is in Valorant you win or lose games. Like as much as we love to hate on RR and the MMR system, is like it's a good reflection. And so you get a very clear long-term understanding of like whether you're doing the right things or the wrong things, right? And so you don't get that necessarily in real life. If you have a great manager, like maybe, but if you don't, like you don't, right? And so if you can develop those skills in this crucible of Valorant, which tells you what's going well and isn't, like that's a really great way to do it. And I think there's like hard work, feedback, growth mindset. I think there's more like, mentally controlling yourself, being a lifelong student, like being humble enough to learn, right? Like it's funny when people are like, this rank is trash. And it's like, well, you're here with me. So like, the moment you say we're all trash, like you're one of us, and it's like, having the humility to be a lifelong student means that like, you're like really adopting that growth mindset of always learning and growing. So I think there's like so many things, like those are just off the top of my head.
I guess like the one thing I would maybe like side add to this too, just because it was coming to mind, is like Valorant is like very dynamic, and sometimes your inputs don't like show on your outputs right away. And if that, like after the conclusion of this is like maybe Valorant isn't for you, like I think that's okay. Like I think a lot of people don't like multiplayer games in the sense like you don't have the control over the outcome. Like maybe something more controlled is more your thing, like chess or like aim trainers.
Well, I saw this thing from Tens, and he was like, to be really good, he was talking about whether Donk would ever come over to Valorant, and he's like, obviously he's like, so he has this triangle, and he's like, you need to be a pro, you need to be on all three of these, right? You need to have the talent, you need to have the hard work, and then you need to have the enjoyment of the game. And he's like, if Donk came over, he's like, has everything he needs for CS, and he loves CS. And he's like, I think he wouldn't be as good because you would lose the enjoyment. And once you lose the enjoyment, you lose the hard work. And so like, I think, it makes me think of what you're saying, which is if you're not loving this, like at some level, if like Valorant isn't giving you joy at some point, if you don't enjoy parts of this, then like go find something that does give you that, right? Like don't hammer your way at this because you're like, I've tried nothing and I'm all out of options, right? Like figure out that thing that does like nail it for you, in terms of who you are, right? Like that's part of learning about yourself, is like realizing that this thing that maybe you wanted isn't really for you.
Yeah, I think that's super important because Valorant, obviously you're going to have teammates and team dynamics, but a lot of people get drained about that stuff, and like they prefer to play the game in like a duo, trio, or even 5-stack setting, which might just mean that like you either have to give up on climbing Valorant solo queue, or maybe you have to play a different game that you have like a set team, or maybe you play a game where you're playing a solo type of game. But for me, for example, don't play. I quite like solo queue though. Is maybe that's why like I've been drawn to League and Valorant over the past few years. Is like I don't really get super obsessed with what my teammates are doing. Like I just want to play the game. Whereas I don't think that's true for other people. Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been a long, rambling conversation. I hope everyone listening, hope you all got something out of this. We always appreciate your support and your comments, so send them our way and we read them all the time. So appreciate everyone listening. Hope you're all having a great day, and until next time, see you next week.
Peace out.